We are back. And tonight there is some news that was breaking earlier today, and we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. We're talking Star Wars. And there was this secret movie that was being produced that was supposed to go into production very soon. And the writers of the film, Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt-Gibson, have departed. Now, right away, everybody is just, oh my God, Kathleen Kennedy, she doesn't know what she's doing, blah, 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 blah. And then, you go on to read in the article. This is by Deadline, by the way. He says a couple of things that are just, hey, what's going on? He says a couple of things that are just interesting to me. And he says, I'll just say that for reasons that I can't get into on this Sunday morning, on this day, the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely, extremely high. If the film can't be great, it shouldn't exist. And he goes on to say, that's all I'll say, because I have the same association with Star Wars as I do, which is with the first movie that he saw it with his dad on his lap when he was 4 years old, May of 1977. And I think it's possible that times when you hold something in such high reverence and esteem, you start to get in the kitchen and you just go, oh, maybe I shouldn't be cooking. Maybe I should just be eating. So we'll just leave it at that point. So one of the things that I just find interesting about that quote is he would rather leave the project because maybe he saw the complexity of it and what Lucasfilm was trying to do. And here's the thing, everyone wants to just go Kathleen Kennedy, Kathleen Kennedy, Kathleen Kennedy, which I don't. I'm not that. I've always been a supporter of Kathleen. But one of the things that people don't ever bring up is Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. When you watch interviews with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni sitting together recently with the Mandalorian season 3 press junket, they talked about the fact that sometimes they disagree on things and they have to kind of work it out. What if Filoni's walking in the door and he sees what Damon's doing and he goes, no, that wouldn't work because of this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other that happened in the Clone Wars, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. See, we don't know that it's not something else like that because everyone wants to point the finger at Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, Lucasfilm's going down. They don't know what they're doing. They keep destroying movies and franchises and all that kind of stuff. But to me, the admittance of, hey, I might be in over my head, I'm going to step back, is positive. This is a positive thing. This is someone who is responsible enough to go, you know what? Hey, Crazy Joe Adventures and Controller Akimbo. Sorry about that. Waving earlier. That's the thing that, that gets me is like he understood that he was either in over his head and had to bow out and just say, you know what, I would rather watch these movies than make this movie. Because what's interesting is the director who is attached to that is still attached to that project, which means the director is moving forward. And maybe they just needed, they needed somebody to come in and start tweaking the script a little bit or getting it in the shape to capture the vision of not just the writers, but what the director wants to do and what Lucasfilm wants to do and how they want to shape this. And the other thing is they don't want to misstep. See, Lucasfilm wants to put out the best product ever, and they understand that they have failed several times with the audiences. So now they want to do it right. And every time you see a movie Rogue Squadron, whatever the case may be, being shut down, or, oh, they got rid of the creator. Oh, it was a scheduling thing, whatever. Lucasfilm is doing what they're trying to do to make the best product. It's not bad management. It's not, oh, they picked the wrong person. No, I'm sure when Damon came in and he had a vision of what he wanted and he pitched it, the pitch was probably so good. Obviously, Lucasfilm was like, okay, let's do this. But then when they start getting into the meat and potatoes of it, it didn't work out. And Damon saw that. And Damon said, you know what? I'm going to bounce. It's not somebody that's just, over my shoulder, tapping me on the back of the head with a thumb saying, do this, do this, do this, do this. My mother bought me this awesome mug. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women. Quint from Jaws. So I thank my mom. She watches my streams. Thanks, Mom. But I think this is a good thing. Bob Iger has said recently that he specifically wants these movies to be perfect and to not rush anything. One of the problems that they've been trying to do is just crank out Star Wars content like crazy, where before, between each trilogy, we would have decades of space between trilogies. All right, let's see. Hunter, what are we saying here? Sean O'Rourke, do you think the director Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt-Gibson will join James Gunn? I don't know. Look, here's the thing. When it comes to all of these people, whether you're jumping ship to one studio or another, yeah, if the money's right and somebody will pay. Look, if you look at what Lindelof has been involved in, he was a producer on the J.J. Abrams original Star Trek in 2009. He was a producer and showrunner on Lost. And you kind of go through executive producer on Prometheus. Listen, here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff on his resume that I just didn't care for or didn't like. I'm not saying he's not a good creative person, but the Watchmen TV series, I didn't like the Watchmen, the original Watchmen, and so Tomorrowland, never saw that. Star Trek Into Darkness, that was kind of like on its way out. Prometheus, I thought was a terrible alien film, non-alien film, whatever you want to call it. So, he hasn't been involved with a lot of stuff that's been that great. I know he did The Leftovers and everybody's, oh, The Leftovers. He had 28 episodes, whatever that may, but I don't like the guy that played the lead in that, Jennifer Aniston's ex-husband, Justin Theroux. So I didn't watch that. I haven't watched anything he's done. And the thing with Justin, he's hardly done anything. So can't fault that guy for anything. He's maybe 5 projects he's worked on. Let's see. Crazy Joe. I have faith in Kathleen Kennedy with the exception of Rise of Skywalker. They haven't let me down yet. Okay. I mean, that's fair. I haven't enjoyed everything that they've put out since they've put out, but there are some things that I absolutely love. I love The Force Awakens. I love Rogue One. Rogue One, believe it or not, is my number 2 movie out of all the Star Wars films that have ever been made. My number 1 is The Empire Strikes Back. Then Rogue One is right after it. But how do we know for sure it's due to continuity? This could just be a PR response. It's not. For the first time that they switched directors and visions. What about Solo, Lord and Miller? All right, look, Solo, Lord and Miller. I mean, if you understand the behind the scenes of that one, they came in, they sat down with Kathleen Kennedy, they came up with a vision. And look, this is something else you have to keep in mind. Lawrence Kasdan, Larry Kasdan, wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark, wrote Empire Strikes Back. I should say written, sorry. He and his son wrote or had written the Solo film. So Lord and Miller come in, and they come in from a background of Lego Movie. See, the thing about Lucasfilm is they were trying to find new hot directors that could take things into the future instead of going into the well and finding old established directors. And that has completely backfired on them, as far as I'm concerned, with the feature films. So they get Lord and Miller, and they're in there. And they start, here you are, you've got Writers Guild of America, Lawrence Kasdan, Oscar, all this kind of stuff. And he's sitting there in Video Village with his son, and they wrote Solo, and they're improving dialogue. Like, so Miller and they're going, yeah, okay, now that we said the line, do it like this. Just have fun with it. Well, you can't do that to Lawrence Kasdan's script. You can't improv. And so there was some headbutting going on there, and you don't headbutt with Lawrence Kasdan. You don't. You bow down to the guy that wrote Empire Strikes Back. You bow down to the guy that wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark. He knows Han Solo better than anyone. And he had his script, and that's the way it was. So what did they have to do? They realized it wasn't going to work. I mean, you had Alden Ehrenreich complaining to Lucasfilm and to Kathleen Kennedy that he felt like he was doing an impression of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And that wasn't the Han Solo he wanted to play. He wanted to play the Han Solo, like Empire Strikes Back Han Solo, like the hero, the good guy, the guy that's, cool, calm, and they were making him a bumbling idiot. So you had the lead actor and you had the writers just like flipping out over Lord Miller. So they get rid of him. And because of the WGA, they bring in Ron Howard, which was a great. People can say what they want about Solo. In the end, it was a good film. Its release was completely botched. They put it in the summertime instead of keeping with the tradition of keeping it around Christmas. And they went with Mary Poppins Returns as their big Christmas movie. And if they would have just let The Last Jedi breathe 4 more months longer, and drop it in December, or 6 more months longer and drop it in December, that movie would have been gangbusters for the holidays. Guarantee. Solo would have been, it would have been gangbusters. It would have made, a good $800-900 million instead of the 300 million or whatever, 380 million it made. So they get rid of these guys. They bring in Ron Howard, and because of the WGA rules, Writers Guild of America, in order for a director to get full credit, they would have had to have shot 75% of the movie or more. So these guys come in, and, or Ron Howard comes in, and they basically remake the entire film, which was double the budget of what they wanted to spend on Solo. So that was that one. You look at what happened with Rogue One. You had Gareth Edwards, great guy, coming off Godzilla. He had done the found footage kind of movie prior to that, hot stuff in Hollywood. Again, let's go with hot directors. And again, this is previous to what was done with Solo. So they get Gareth Edwards in there. He starts making a movie, and they're starting to see the dailies, and it's got that shaky cam Saving Private Ryan look. Well, they want to go with the aesthetic of all the other Star Wars films and make it kind of like all even keeled. If you go too far off the map with the shaky cam stuff, it's not going to work. I mean, I think even Lucas in Attack of the Clones used one zip zoom when the clone ship was flying by, and it was the first time that had ever been done in a Star Wars movie. So Gareth Edwards comes in, shoots his movie, and they realize, okay, we got to bring in Tony Gilroy, who did Andor, prior to Andor, obviously. He comes in and he takes a shot doing some rewrites and ends up shooting second unit and like shooting a lot of the stuff that ended up in the film. But Gareth Edwards was cool about it, wanted to make the best movie. So he didn't have a problem with it, which is why he still stayed in the mix with Lucasfilm, and they ended up giving him a cameo in The Last Jedi as a rebel fighter, which I thought was great. Plus, he had a cameo in his own movie Rogue One with the Darth Vader scene, pulling down the latch that shut off the door or whatever before they flew off in the Tantive 4. So good management there. They dodged a bullet. And then you got Josh Trank, who was originally supposed to do the Boba Fett movie. Josh Trank was on Fantastic Four. I had some friends that worked on Fantastic Four. They said it was a nightmare. And, that was a movie where they literally fired Josh Trank, but because of contracts and stuff, he had to sit there and watch someone else direct reshoots for his movie. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that went on. I don't want to get into any of that stuff because, like I said, I had friends that worked on that film, but it's things that Lucasfilm was like, you know what, we're not going to do the Boba Fett movie now. We're going to pull that back. But they had made the announcement that Josh Trank was doing Boba Fett, and then all that stuff so people forget that this is like a business. It's show business, and you have to make decisions, creative decisions and business decisions. So for me, I don't see this as a problem. I see this as fixing the product to make sure you put out the best product so that you don't have a misstep. Now, in a perfect world, you would hire the best director right off the bat. You would hire the best everything right off the bat, and you'd make the best movie. Well, we don't live in that world. Okay? We just don't. You pick people that you think are going to work well together, and then you just hope that they deliver something that you can sell. Now, if they can't, then what you have to do is you have to go in and you have to fix the problem. And, a lot of people don't stay for movie credits. They don't stay and they watch the movie credits. And on some of these big Star Wars films, Marvel films, we're talking 600 credits. We're talking, 50 department heads in multiple countries. And so when you have someone like Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, you got one person overseeing multiple productions with hundreds of crew members, hundreds of department heads. And, for some reason, like everything falls on Kathleen Kennedy. It's a straw man's argument, completely a straw man's argument. And this is from someone who works in the film industry full time. I was actually excited about the Star Wars moving back to Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, I got that. Yep. Caden Reed, what's up? And let's see. Do you think one day that we'll see Zack Snyder joining James Gunn to direct a Batman or Justice League for DCU? No, I don't think so. I'll never say never. But I don't think so. I think what happened with James Gunn, or what happened with Zack Snyder with Warner Brothers, even if there's new regime, even if there's all that stuff, I don't see him stepping back into that water. If you look at what's going on, the weekend with the Snyder like thing, full circles, they're doing a premiere in IMAX of all three of his films, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and his 4-hour Justice League. And he's just kind of saying, look, this is my world, this is where I'm living in, and that's it. I think that's how that's going. And I'm happy for Zach. And I can't wait to watch Rebel Moon. I think Rebel Moon is going to be fantastic. Some of the pictures that have come out so far look great. Do you think Prometheus would be better without Damon Lindelof being involved? I mean, look, I don't, he didn't write it. He was just a producer, I think. But Prometheus is Ridley Scott stuff, right? And Ridley Scott he's in a weird place with all that. His big mistake was taking the alien creature out of Alien Covenant and Prometheus. So you took the alien out and you showed that hybrid thing at the end for like 13 seconds. And the movie didn't do very well. And then you put out Covenant, which was the original title, was Covenant. They had to add Alien Covenant, like, so that people understood it was an alien film. And in all the trailers, they showed the one money shot of the alien jumping on the windshield of the ship. It's like, and then you go and you watch the movie and there's no fucking alien in it at all. I mean, and so big problem. Again, like, you can't have an alien movie without the aliens in it. It's clear that it doesn't work. And so, but I wouldn't put that on Damon. Again, I would put that on Ridley Scott, because I think Ridley wrote Prometheus and Covenant. And so I would put that on Ridley. And I get that Ridley's trying to go in a different direction with Prometheus and doing the prequel, but a prequel trilogy behind all the alien movies without an alien in it. Nah. Didn't work for me. Didn't work for a lot of people. And then and the other thing is the runtime. These Ridley Scott movies are, like, no one wants a 3-hour alien movie, unless James Cameron's directing it. Let's be honest. Colonial Marines, like, unless you're doing something like that, it was both of those films were boring. I don't care what anybody says. Prometheus and Covenant, Alien Covenant, boring films. But when you're an author, what's the word? When you're Ridley Scott and you've made all the movies that you've made, Gladiator, blah, 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 the original Alien in 79, all this, you can do what you want. And that's fine. That's what he did. He did what he wanted. But, he did that with the old regime because 20th Century Fox is now owned by Disney. So I don't think they would give him that latitude going forward. So this thing with Damon bowing out with his crew and what he said it really touched me. He was being open and honest, saying, if it's not going to be great, what's the point of doing it? And to me, that's the bar that Lucasfilm is setting now because of some of the missteps. Setting the bar so high that they would rather, and I've been all for a big pause on all Star Wars, even the stuff on Disney Plus, because it's hit or miss. The Kenobi series, I liked 3 out of the 6 episodes. Okay. That was me. So that show was 50-50. Book of Boba Fett was all over the map. You look at Return of the Jedi, the Sarlacc pit grabs Lando by the leg, starts pulling him down, and it can't pull him down fast enough. And Han shoots the tentacle. And then in the Book of Boba Fett, the Sarlacc can grab the Slave One and try to pull the whole ship in. What? To me, those are continuity issues where some, oh yeah, it's a cool idea to have a jump scare with the Sarlacc, grab the damn ship and pull it down. But if it couldn't pull down Lando Calrissian in Return of the Jedi, why are you making it do it now like that? So for me, I had problems with the Book of Boba Fett. And then the obvious, season 3, episode 1 of The Mandalorian being squished right into the Book of Boba Fett made no sense to me, which is why I think the first 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett have kind of been a little mid, because the original first episode they dropped in the Book of Boba Fett. That in order to tie in the stuff where he shows up at the end with Grogu to help fight, I feel like that's what they did. They just took that episode, dropped it. I could be wrong. Hey, Saggy, what's happening? Man, there's so much drama going on your channel and Jarbo's. Oh my God. You guys talk about something fun. I love you guys, but Jesus. So anyway, so I guess those are my thoughts really when it comes to, Lucasfilm once again parting ways with people. Now, here's the other thing. Sometimes writers make their pass, give their script, turn it in, and then they bring in another writer and they bow out. So, it could also be a situation like that. Sometimes people don't stay the entire time. You look at David Cope, who wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. His version of Crystal Skull was 3 other versions that he pulled from that were written. Frank Darabont, Walking Dead, Shawshank Redemption. He wrote a version of Indy 4, and some of those elements made it into David Cope's screenplay. So, it could be a situation like that we're not privy to because we don't have the information, right? We don't have the information except what's being leaked, what's being leaked, let's be honest, is just clickbait. They just want eyeballs on these articles, whether it's Deadline or Variety or Hollywood Reporter. It's going to throw red meat to a lot of the haters that are on YouTube that just want to slam Lucasfilm and slam, but these are business decisions. Damon said, what about Star Wars? Yeah, he said he was in over his head. He basically said, I had a script, I had an idea, I'm writing it, and I realized, oh shit, this is bigger than I am, and I need to bow out. That's what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but I think it's important that you know your limitations as a creator, and you go, you know what? I can't do this, And again, what we don't know, which of course everyone's, oh, Kathleen Kennedy. What we don't know is if, in fact, oh, look, I just see Jarbo's here. Are you in here, buddy?
I am. Yeah. What's up?
Oh, hey, what's going on?
Not too much.
So you spent time with the family? You're good?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a great deal of time because they're with their mom right now. But I thought I could stop by for a few and just check in.
Yeah, man. What are your thoughts?
So
Seeing them depart.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, man. Like, look, Lindelof said it best, and that's what is not being talked about as much as it should be, because the splashy headline was they've exited the project, and I think a lot of people thought that they were the ones that were directing the project. So it's like another director has exited the project, but really, Lindelof is just like, we could. Long story short, he couldn't crack it, and there's nothing wrong with going like we couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
And there's no point, and they're such big fans. They don't want to hurt it.
They don't want to hurt it. After
they don't want to hurt
what happened with Rian Johnson, I mean, whether people liked Last Jedi or not, it did kind of split the fandom up.
100%. Yeah.
And so for me, they're like, no, man. I mean, when you hear him say, my first experience with Star Wars was sitting on my dad's lap in 77 in a movie theater. I love this franchise. Okay. I thought I had something. I can't, like you say, crack the nut. I got to move on.
Yeah.
And I totally respect that.
No, 100%, 100%. Yeah. Like, it's just, if you're not able to get it, there's nothing wrong with saying we couldn't get there. I mean, Affleck stopped working on his Batman movie because he even said we couldn't crack it. And then it went to Matt Reeves, and then Matt Reeves opted to go make, his own movie. His own movie was great.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think a lot of people need to remember in these particular situations, is that this is supposed to be like a smaller movie, as far as I understand it. It's got a really unknown director, the first female director of a Star Wars movie, beating out Patty Jenkins. This is the one that, they were thinking was going to start going into production February of next year to get ready for 2025. Them leaving the project right now pretty much just means that it will still be on track for February 2024, provided they can bring in a writer who can tackle it. Yeah. Now, the question then becomes, where are they going to set the movie? And I think the biggest mistake they could make, and you will probably disagree with me on this one, but that's okay. I think the biggest mistake that Lucasfilm could make right now would be focusing on the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, no, I don't think this movie was a sequel trilogy film at all. I don't buy that. I mean, because I know Taika Waititi, like I've been saying forever, he's doing the live action Star Wars Rebels. Whether that comes to fruition or not,
he's doing Rebels?
I believe he's doing Rebels. Because if you look at his track record, you look at the movies that he does, ensembles, comedy, that kind of thing, and you look at Rebels itself, they're going to introduce characters in Ahsoka, and you're going to have some of these characters appear when that series drops, and I believe they're spinning it off into his movie, because the Ghost shows up in Rogue One at the Battle of Scarif. The Ghost shows up in the Rise of Skywalker at the end. So the Ghost and that crew have been around through all of this, having their own adventures that are separate from anything in the Star Wars, like Luke Skywalker saga. And I believe they are going to go to the Outer Rim, someplace and they're going to have their adventures. And I believe he is doing Rebels. I don't believe that's going to be a Dave Filoni thing. I think he's, and when you hear about Taika playing a character, I think he's going to play the big creature that's always the comic relief with Ezra, whatever the character's name is. I think that's his character.
I mean,
it'll be CGI.
It would be very, I don't know. He's got that type of humor would not really apply to that character.
Well, yeah, but if you look at the Star Wars Rebel, there's a lot of like little comedy in there that I think.
Oh no, definitely.
Yeah, and as long as he doesn't go full Thor Love and Thunder with it, which I think they might pull the reins back on that, because again, you're trying to protect the Star Wars brand. I believe he is doing Star Wars Rebels. I think this other one was completely separate, and I don't think that they're doing the sequel trilogy yet. Everyone keeps talking about, I know, Daisy Ridley had a meeting or lunch or something, or saw somebody at Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy or something. And, those are early talks, but those could be years away. I mean, I just don't see them going right into it hardcore when they're investing so much time in the time frame with the Mandalorian between Return of the Jedi and the Rise of the First Order. I feel like they're going to spend a lot of time right here, and the only way to make the other stuff work is to go in completely opposite directions with Star Wars Rebels.
Sure. No, I get that.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying on that one. And I talked about this last night when I was talking about the story. And the thing I bring up about Star Wars is, you know, if you look at the top Disney Plus original shows of 2022, number 5 and number 6 were both Star Wars. Number 5 was Book of Boba Fett, and number 6 was Andor. And I'm like, okay, that gives you your time frame, right? That gives you your playground, if you will. So what you have is you've got roughly about a 13-year period. Is you know, I mean, I could probably really get in there and refine it, like 13 to 15 years from Andor to where Boba Fett is, or now Mando season 3. There's a lot there. And as I keep saying to people, I'm like, look, if you look at it, what I feel is the best approach to this. You saw Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So despite your thoughts on the movie, were you ever intrigued by all of the references back to what Indy did during World War II?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Those like the Berlin job, things like that, right? The little self-referential moments and everything.
Those are stories in itself.
Exactly.
You know,
so why
we
not?
were double agents. Oh yeah. What were they doing in Nazi Germany during that
Why
time?
is he a general or an Admiral Jones or whatever the hell he was in that movie?
Right.
General, I think he got promoted in the military. He was active in World War II.
Yeah.
That's something people want to see. Right. And it's like, go back to, again, look at the concept of what the Empire is. The Empire is very much a criticism on American imperialism.
Yep. The Vietnam War.
The Vietnam War. I mean, you could take that and apply it to the lens of our own, you know, current situation, and like looking at, again, the military industrial complex. And there's so many areas that you could kind of pull from, but then tell it from the perspective of when it's the most fascinating. And I think one of the things that works the best for Andor, because I think Andor is phenomenal.
I love it. I loved Andor. I thought it's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn, but here's how you have to look at Andor. Andor is told in 4 chapters. Each chapter is 3 episodes. So look at it like that, or look at it like little arcs. And so because they do that specifically because of season 2, right? Season 1, those 12 episodes equal 1 year. So
right.
Each episode, roughly a month, if you will, whatever it is, but it's like, it's a year. Now, season 2 is going to have 12 episodes, and every 3 episodes is going to equal 1 year leading up to the beginning
of Rogue One.
Like walking into Rogue One.
I remember reading about that originally they were trying to do 5 seasons, but then they were like, nah, we're going to cut this back.
They scaled it back. They wanted to do 1 a year.
And they'll do these mini time jumps.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Like, I think having a more like storied approach to this is okay. But after watching the first season, I'm like, dude, I just want to live in this world a bit more. I think it's intriguing. It's fascinating. The acting was phenomenal. The set pieces were completely stellar. And the heist, oh my God.
That's what I get back to. Okay, we talking about this time frame. You're talking about this 13 years that Lucasfilm should stay in. They're already sharing resources. Oh, you built an X-Wing? Get it out of storage. Let's bring it up. See, they're not destroying things. Right. So one of the things that Bob Iger was saying going forward is they're going to have to scale these back financially. And when you already have a Millennium Falcon in storage, or I think in one of the episodes of Mandalorian, they grabbed a cockpit from the X-Wing that was at Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, really?
And they shot that. And so when you can share resources, or like when you have these ships and you've got these, moisture farm, towers. Well, yeah. And if you've got these resources, like they've already produced all this CGI for the volume. Okay. How many times have they gone back to Tatooine in The Mandalorian? Yeah, quite a few times. Let's go back to that hangar and let's bring back Peli Motto. I like Peli Motto though.
I
like her too. And so let's bring her back, and we already have those resources. So how do we work within what we've created? And that's the way to save money, because they spent $18 million developing the volume and building it.
And the thing is, I think, and so far I believe literally that in regards to like Disney related uses of the volume, the only one to really do it well has been Mandalorian. Like Thor: Love and Thunder, I was really excited for that being the first film shot in the volume. And I feel like they overdid it. It was like the color schemes that were in Ragnarok, because I really enjoyed like the way they did the colors in that movie.
Sure.
Were muted here, very muted in Thor: Love and Thunder. The visual of, I mean, but then again, as we've now come to discover, the visual effects were rushed,
Yep.
and obviously there was, some people who took the hit for that. It was never going to be Feige. It was always going to be Alonzo. She definitely was the fall person, and that's a big fall person.
And
like
it's funny. She's out now, but and that story, what, broke today?
Broke last night.
Or last night. I started thinking about it today, and I'm like, 17 years she's been with Marvel Studios, helping create these movies and all that kind of stuff. And people could go, point towards this social justice stuff or whatever, but in the end, it's like, dude, she spent 17 years doing this shit. Maybe she wants to go make an artsy fartsy movie with no CGI and just a real kitchen table story. Like, maybe. We don't know why she, I mean, has it really come out why she's
there's been
17 years?
So the biggest thing that I noticed from this was that the reporting said that she left on Friday, but they didn't report on it until Monday. That's significant to me. If they bottled that for the weekend, that's significant.
Well, maybe they were negotiating like whatever her exit package was.
And then most likely, I think. But there's been, like, again, Bob Iger is wanting to scale things back.
He's scaling things back. Yeah.
And I don't really feel like, and I don't really feel like they, there was a lot that I was reading about, like how she was like a kingmaker and she was very like toxic in there and everything else. And that could have led to that. I think as time goes on, we'll get more. Right now, it's just shocking because you're like, she was the person who was like the number two. Like, I thought she was going to take over Marvel. I thought she was going to take over for Feige because she was, like right there next to him.
Sure.
But it could be Lou D'Esposito now, Lou, who has produced everything, quite frankly, as well as directed a lot of the one shots. I'd love to see his take on a movie. I think he's earned that right, to be honest with you.
I liked a lot of the one shots that were.
Oh, they were great.
I hate that they stopped doing it.
I know.
It made no sense. That they were
the
great bonuses on the DVDs.
Oh, I know, they were great. They were so much fun.
It was a way to get people to go buy physical media.
Yeah, funny thing too is so Iger kind of moved away from that a bit, like on the Disney Plus side of things.
Sure.
And I understand they don't want to sell the Blu-rays or the 4Ks because they think that it's going to cause people to like not have their subscriptions. And I'm all like, if you look at the data, just real quick, the data for Disney Plus that I recall reading is like, obviously families are going to be a big key factor in that of who's going to be subscribed, but the largest demographic of people who have Disney Plus, according to one report that I read, and I have to go back and find it again, but they said that it was mostly single adult households had Disney Plus.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And it's like, and that to me makes a lot of sense. Cause like when they first announced Disney Plus, I got my kids, right? So I'm like, yeah, we're going to get it. Like, obviously we're going to get it. But then it's like, I look through their back catalog and I'm like, they got a lot of stuff on here, a lot of good stuff on here, And so it's like, there's no point of getting rid of it. All the Pixars are there. All the Star Wars are there. The Marvel movies. I mean, like everything I like is there. Everything my kids like are there. Like that's how we got into Bluey, which is such an amazing show. And
Bluey.
It's great.
Dude, we're just now getting into that with my three-year-old. I actually bought her some Bluey action figures the other day.
Oh, nice. I want to know your opinion.
Of it before.
Oh, it's great. I want to know your opinion when you get to it. And if you've already watched season 1, or at least the first part of season 1, because we're like 50 episodes like per season. It's insane.
Yeah, I haven't watched that much yet, but
have you watched the takeaway episode?
I'll have to go back.
That's the one where Bandit and Bluey and Bingo go to the Chinese restaurant and they're waiting 5 minutes for the egg rolls to be done.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, dude, it's so funny. Like as a dad, I was watching that and I'm like, I get it. And then in season 3, there's an episode, I think it's called Lucky's Dad's Rules. And it's all about like a party, party etiquette, things like that, or games at parties and stuff. I won't tell you what happens, but like, I was on the floor laughing.
Well, one of the things that I enjoy about that show, and I mentioned it to my wife too, I said, that show is a very calm show.
It is.
And where if you watch, Mickey Mouse Funhouse or whatever, it's just bouncing off the walls and blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you got Bluey's just this. They're just talking and they're saying, "Oh, well, what is that, Dad?" or whatever. And it's like, oh, this kind of like chills my kid out.
Yeah, it's
So
they
I
also
like it
don't
for that.
they also don't speak down to kids,
Mm.
which I really enjoy. And like the episodes cover some stuff. Like there's an episode where they come across a bird that had fallen out of a tree, and they pick it up and they take it to the vet, and the bird dies. And then Bluey's upset about that. She's upset that the bird died, and so she wants to recreate it where the bird lives, right, to play make believe. And then she kind of goes and realizes that no, it's okay. This kind of stuff happens, And it's just an episode about dealing with loss and dealing with death. There's like episodes about kids with ADHD.
This is an Australian show that Disney purchased, right?
They purchased the streaming rights to it.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
And so it's being made, I think even like the BBC has a part of it or whatever. And
okay, because they did that with the Doctor Who too. They just got the streaming rights to that, thinking that's gonna, I don't know. I don't even care about Doctor Who. To be I don't
honest
either.
with you,
I don't either.
It's like I've tried watching it. It's not for me, and that's fine. But again, with Bluey, it's just, I think it's such a wonderful show and everything else. And I jokingly say to people who watch it, if you watch it, just watch like the parents' relationship, because I think that is such a positive relationship. Like you watch the parents interact with each other, and you're like, they have an insanely good sex life. Like you just know that those parents, like they're in it, and they're both satisfied at the end of it, and it happens frequently. I guarantee it. There's an episode that's really funny,
doggy style, I guess. Right?
It's all doggy style, right? Or maybe some missionary, because they're anthropomorphic.
They stand upright.
They might do it in the shower. Who knows? But anyway, there's an episode in the season 1 where like they have like this date night or whatever, and it's like the kids are like kind of running a restaurant. And at one point, the mom goes like, "Oh, I have to go to the loo." And Bluey goes, "Oh, it's over there in the corner." And like you actually see the mom get up, walk over to like the corner in between the cabinet or the shelf and the wall, and turn around and kind of squat. She doesn't actually go to the bathroom, but she goes through the motions of getting up, going to the back of the room, and taking a crap in a corner. Right. Wow. And it's just a really, really funny little thing in the background. The show's full of that stuff.
But again, it's like you got to keep the adults, Moose Face. Hey, what's going on, man? You got to keep the adults, kind of engaged as well.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. Like, yeah. And that's how these shows, like, like watching some of this stuff. It's like Encanto, for example. When I first saw Encanto, I did not care for it. I did not like it. I was like, what am I watching? But then the more you watch it, because you have kids, the more you listen. And then you're like, I'll give you guys an example. So today I took my kids to Walmart to run an errand with me. My daughter's like, let's listen to music. Let's listen to the Frozen soundtrack. And because I love her, I'm going to torture myself. Like I hate Frozen. I despise
I like
Frozen
stuff. We always, my wife loves the song from the sequel, the Lost in the Woods. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the music is good.
We know all the lyrics. It's crazy.
But what I don't like about Frozen, again, like just from a storytelling perspective, nothing makes sense. Like literally, like nothing makes sense in the first movie. Like, why is it that Sven and Kristoff, like when they were kids, they're ice cutters, and then like he goes into the woods, gets adopted by trolls or love trolls. No one ever questions what happened to the kid. He never questions like, where are my parents? He gets kidnapped and he gets indoctrinated into this cult of magicians. And then you've got Anna, who is completely just like, yeah, she's shut in. She just wants attention, meets the first guy. She's like, let's get married. And then you think this guy's a good guy. This is my biggest complaint with Frozen. You think that Hans is his name?
Hans, yeah.
Hans, you think he's a good guy?
He's a good guy. He's horrible.
He's a horrible dude, but that heel turn makes no sense. Like literally it makes no sense from just a storytelling perspective.
Well, yeah, because the song and everything, like, oh, they you're gonna get married and everything's just like they're in love, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm gonna rule this kingdom.
Yeah. What? Yeah, well, here's the thing is like I understand like setting up the bad guy, like the Duke of Weaselton or Wesselton, and I love that in Zootopia they made fun of that with Duke Weaselton and everything else, and like because Zootopia is like 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Such a good movie. It is both pro cop and anti racist.
It's great.
They
Yeah.
they really struck a chord with that movie in a way. But going back to Frozen, so there's the scene where, you know, Elsa freezes everything. She takes off. Anna's like, I have to go get her. She looks at Hans and she's like, I just met you, but you're in charge.
Yeah, I just met you, but yeah, you go ahead and
Yeah.
take my kingdom
Yeah.
over while I'm
Yeah.
gone.
And I'm going to go do this and you got this, right? And then it's like, okay, fine. So now they're setting up the whole thing for him to become the bad guy. I get all that, right? But we don't see him interacting negatively with about the situation. We don't see him scheming with Weaselton. We don't
Right.
see him anything. The only other time we see him is a cutaway back to him where he is saying, okay, we need to make sure that you have blankets. These people have food, get them
I
inside, get
know
them warm.
he's trying to be all like, yeah,
So he's
but see, that's
being a leader.
but it's the Ryan Johnson school of like your expectations, like subverting.
I guess so. I'll tell you this though. So I worked at a drive-in in San Diego for a long time.
Had to be good. Did you have 35 millimeter?
35 millimeter until 2011 when they went digital. But when I was managing it, I have tinnitus in my ears and I have calluses on my fingers from all the years working in the projection booth.
God, maybe that's why I've got tinnitus. No, it's only happened the last couple of years.
It's the grinding of the machines. That's like the constant. Yeah, that will do it to you. I found that out after the fact. I should have.
How fast could you lace? Were yours Christy platters?
Yeah.
How fast could you? I could do it in less than. I would say it was like less than 90 seconds. I can thread up.
Wait, you're talking a whole movie thread less than 90?
Yeah,
that's slow as fuck, dude.
Is it really?
Yeah, I can thread. It's all about the hand movements. It's all about the. It's got to be quicker than that because all you got to do is you take the head, right? You run it through the centerpiece,
right?
Okay, you bring it over to the tower. You loop it around. You loop it up. You loop it over. Here's the thing, though. What you have to remember is when you're looping it over from the tower to the projector, you have to, at that point, you twist your wrist and you flip it so then the sound is facing the screen.
Yeah.
So then you run it through, and then what I do is I just kind of get it to the bottom. I give it a little bit of slack, and then I go in and I line it up in the center by scrolling it forward, getting the lining up the brackets or whatever, the cogs. I forget what it's called. It's been so long, but you know what I'm talking about.
Perfs.
Yeah. Because what you have to guys remember is to make sure you get the movie right, you have to line up. Like you have to. It's just kind of an exact science. You have to kind of count. You have to, or you kind of just gauge it really, but like you're usually within like the realm of being able to adjust it up and down and be ready to go when the movie starts. But you get that in there, you put it around the sound, you loop it out real quick, you run it back, and then you just cycle it through to the because I let it hang loose until I get to the bottom, and then I immediately just throw it in to the other side of the platter, loop it into the empty slot, and be good to go.
Right.
I mean, because the thing is, like, dude, we had this like at the drive-in, we had 2 screens, so we had this 2 projectors, and then so I did that, and then when I left there and I went to LA, I worked at the Regency Academy 6 in Pasadena.
Did they interlock screens where you'd have the film going from, like, if it was shown in 2 theaters?
No, we didn't do that. This building was like almost 100, it was like 80 years old. And it was originally a playhouse that they converted into a single screen theater. Okay. And then they eventually converted it into 6 auditoriums. So they had 3 different projection rooms on 3 different floors. So it's like the top 2, like screen 1, screen 2. It was about 160 steps. That. I'll have to show you some. I'll show you pictures or whatever. But it's like from like the floor, from like the concession stand, all the way up to just screen 1, screen 2. Was like 160 steps to get up there. And then you have to go down. The problem though is that we weren't allowed to set our show times based upon having it be, similar from where you're at, right? It's like, screen 1, screen 2, having it the similar show times so we could be up in one spot. Corporate did it. So I'd look at my start sheet and I'd look down at it. I'm like, okay, so screen 1, 7:05, screen 6, 7:10. Screen 2, 7:15.
Oh, so you'd were
it's
running
up,
around,
up, down. And and it's like, I'm a fat ass and it's like, I'm in a suit, I'm in a shirt and tie trying to like run up these flights of stairs during the summer, no air conditioning and crap. And I, after a while, I just said, fuck it. I started the movies when I wanted. I'm like, I'm not going to make that run. You pay me $9 an hour, pound sand. There's a reason.
I managed movie theaters, and then from 1991 to 1990, 96 years. So 91 to 96. No, 90. whatever it
Now,
was.
were you a general manager or assistant? Because I was only the assistant.
I was assistant. I was assistant manager.
I never wanted the general manager job. F that. That's
No, I didn't want that. But I had a great time. You know, it was an 8-plex, the first one I worked at. Then I transferred to a triple, which our center screen at the triple was the largest screen in the entire state of North Carolina at that time.
wow.
And this is before IMAX and everything. We're talking the 90s. And then I went to a 6-plex, and every single one of those theaters all had the projectors on the same level. You know, you could walk.
I've done that one time.
Yeah,
it was a godsend.
it was always beautiful. Yeah,
yeah. We had the Regency, the company I worked for, they were the ones who would go in. Like, let's say there would be a Regal that was going to be closed down or whatever, right? They would go in, they would buy it up, or they would take over the lease, and they were very cheap. But we ended up. I lived in North Hollywood, and I worked in Pasadena. It was like 17 miles one direction to get to work for $9 an hour, 4 days a week.
Yeah,
it was such a waste.
I mean, I think I made $18,500 a year when I left them, and the next job that I got managing restaurants, I went from 18,000 to 35,000. That was my next jump.
Yeah,
I mean, they paid you nothing to work at the theater. Nothing.
They figure you're going to get the free movies and the free popcorn and stuff.
Yeah. I remember being okay. We're going off on a tangent.
No, sorry.
I love it.
I'm just saying it's like, so then we opened one in North Hollywood. There was the Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie where he plays like the sex addict. Do you know that movie?
Yeah. I remember the film.
That one, the theater scene in there where Scarlett Johansson was shot at the North Hollywood Cinema that Regency had. They had just opened. And like, I knew all the managers there, and they were bragging. They're like, "Oh, dude, I got to hang out with ScarJo all day." I'm like, "Fuck you guys, man!" Like I gotta be over here, like with literal rat infested building. It was dead rats were like in the walls. Homeless people would sneak in at night and like crawl behind the screen and fall asleep, and then sneak out in the morning. Dude, like, it's crazy. The whole place is nuts.
I remember Brooke Shields came up and bought a ticket. I was working for the matinees. Like, you didn't have the employees come in Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. Like, the managers would just ring up the tickets and then we'd go up. We had a projectionist, but we'd go up too. But this woman comes to the counter and she's drop dead gorgeous. I'm like, oh my God, this woman's amazing. She's absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't realize she was making a movie in town at the time, because where I live, we make a lot of movies. And this was before I was full-time in the film industry. And I sell her a ticket, and she walks by, and then my regional manager just happened to be in the building, and he starts talking to her. And I was like, and then he walks away, and I said, "Who is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's Brooke Shields." I was like, "What?" That's why I was like, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful." And I'd never seen anyone in my life that cool, like stunning, like walking up and just buying a ticket. It was crazy. Because then like a couple of months later, Melanie Griffith came in, because she was doing a movie here in town. And this was back when she was with Antonio Banderas. And I just remember, like, her kids went into the theater to see a movie, and she was outside the theater the whole time on her cell phone, and never went in to watch the movie with the kids. She just was pacing back and forth. And I think she was talking to Antonio on the phone. Yeah. And I thought to myself, oh man, come on, Mom, put the phone down and go in and be with your kids and watch the movie. But it's Melanie Griffith. She's going to do what she wants. But this wasn't Melanie Griffith, working girl Melanie Griffith. This was Melanie Griffith. She just did not look like she did in Working Girl. So yeah, anyway.
We've all been there.
We've all been.
Yeah. I mean, when I was living in LA, like, that was the funny thing too, with the, like, cause I lived in San Diego. So there's a lot of beautiful women in San Diego. And it's like, even then, like, I was kind of like a little shy to talk to them or whatever, and anything else. And then I go to LA, and it's like, you're just smack dab in the middle of Hottie Central, even though I had a girlfriend. Like, the thing I learned, like, there's a cosplayer named Chloe Dykstra, her dad, John Dykstra, Star Wars.
Oh,
yes. So like, yeah, right. I didn't know that at the time. So I'm at this event. This is, 2011, like, what was it? X-Men First Class had just come out, and I'm at this party at a bar downtown and whatever. And like, it's mostly, it's for a gaming thing. So it's pretty much just like fat white nerds, glasses, goatees, cloning facility. And I fit in just fine. So I'm talking to so in walks this woman, and she is like gorgeous, just gorgeous beyond belief. It's like, everyone stops and looks because like she enters the room, and then it's like it takes all kind of the air out of the room for a second, like that kind of entrance.
Wow.
And then I'm just like, and then my friend I was with was just like humana the whole time, right? And so I'm talking with this one dude about movies, and she just comes over to us and she just strikes up a conversation. She's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And my friend is eyeballs exploding from his head. He is just tongue on the floor, like, "Who is this girl? She's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And I'm just talking to her, right? And then she asks me, she's like, "So you guys talking about movies?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh, didn't?" She goes just randomly. She just goes, "And if you guys see the new X-Men movie that just came out?" I'm like, "Yeah." I went, "Yeah, I saw it the other day." She's like, "What did you think of the visual effects in that movie?" And I'm all like,
Okay,
odd
where's
question,
she going with this?
right? I said they were good, but they weren't complete because the movie had an 11-month turnaround. So they ended up doing it very quickly, and the movie, the effects look good, but they clearly weren't perfect. And then she looks at me, and she's like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "I read about it." And she's like, "Well, my dad did the visual effects."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool, And she's like, "And you're exactly right. Like, he only had 11 months to do the movie, right? Like, it was such a fast turnaround from when Matt Bond came on. You guys got to remember, like, it may have been 13 months. I might have been off, but it was like Matt Vaughn released Kick-Ass in April of 2010.
Right.
And then almost immediately, like, he got brought in to do X-Men First Class, which had a June 2011 start date or release date. And he had maybe about a year to do the script and to shoot the movie and to get it done. And he did a great job. He came on in and he knocked it out of the park, I think. I love First Class.
Yeah, I
But,
like that one too. That was pretty good.
And it was just so funny because she's talking to me about that, right? And again, my friend is just like the whole time. And so we're driving home a little bit later, and he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You were talking to her." Because all he knew her name was Chloe, right? He just knew her name was Chloe. We didn't get a last name. I had to figure that out later on when I saw a picture of her again, And then he's like, "I don't get it. How could you talk to her and not die?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "She's so gorgeous. Like, how did you have a conversation with her without losing your mind?" And I just looked at him and said, "Anthony, I've got a girlfriend." When you realize, like, when you put that in your brain that you're not trying to sleep with them,
you can have very good conversation.
You can talk to them. It's not a problem. But again, like, moving to LA, it's like there's so many attractive women in LA. After a while, it's just like, honey, you might be in Ohio 10, but you're in LA 6. Like, slow your roll a little bit. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's like, let's figure out we're all in this together. Right? We're all in this city together. Let's not try to hierarchy ourselves just yet. You haven't quite got out of the commercial audition phase yet of your career, right? I might sling popcorn at a movie theater, but I still have aspirations of being a writer. But I know my place.
All right, so we got to talk about this, the stuff with The Rock and Levi. Christ, this is what Donovan Martin's saying. Donovan's a good guy. I like bantering with him back and forth. And this is a story that's been hot all day long. And I have to say, and Zachary Levi, you saw, I guess it was The Wrap. Now look, The Wrap has turned into a real shit show of a Hollywood type reporter.
Oh yeah, it has.
And,
Hey, sorry, I have to go to hear something with my kids real quick.
Do it.
So I'll be back in like 2 minutes. I have to just go brush their teeth and get them ready for bed.
Do your thing, man. And
I'll be right back. I know the article, but we'll talk about it when I'll catch up when I get back.
No problem. Okay. So, all right, we'll talk about something. Okay, Lucasfilm. Donovan, I don't know if you've missed the first half of this, the first hour where I was talking about Lucasfilm and how Lucasfilm is not a mess. They know exactly what they're doing. And this thing with Damon, we were talking about it earlier, and I think it's great that he realized he was, in over his head, and his script wasn't working out the way he wanted it, and he had to bow out. I think you gotta give this guy credit for saying to the world, "I love Star Wars and I didn't want to screw it up." And I don't think that's his fault. I don't think that's, he may have had a good pitch. The director's still on board. They're probably going to move forward and just bring in a new writer to do another pass, much like the multiple scripts for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Frank Darabont took a shot at it. David Cope, another guy from Pixar, did a script, and David Cope ended up taking pieces from the other scripts and making Crystal Skull. And I know that's a bad example, but what I'm trying to say is, I believe that this is one of those situations where he couldn't, like, Jarbo was saying earlier in the stream with me, he couldn't crack the nut, and he felt he needed to step back. I don't think this was a Kathleen Kennedy thing. I don't think this was anything like that. I think this was just one of those deals. I'm just what is that? I don't even know what that word is. It's probably a typo. Lucasfilm losing people project by project. I'm glad that this is the first creative to know his limits, but there's others didn't listen to their guts. Well, again, I addressed a lot of this early on. Sorry, I've got allergies are going nuts today. But I addressed this early on with a lot of the other films and I think you've heard from me even on Max's channel back when I was on that they were trying to get hot young directors that had been making good breakout movies, but when you got them in there, they were in over their heads and they couldn't make the movies that Lucasfilm wanted. Earlier, Jim Nelson, Jim, what's up? Star Wars is thriving on TV right now. Let's get more Indiana Jones movies made. I don't know if that's going to happen with Harrison Ford. And I don't think anyone wants a reboot with a new Harrison Ford at this point. I know that Disney Plus has something that they're trying to do within the Indiana Jones universe. I think it's going to be a series based on Abner Ravenwood, which was Marion's father. That was Indiana Jones's inspiration and kind of guided him and brought him up. And I feel like that's the direction they're going to go in. It'll be a series based on Abner Ravenwood. But we'll see. I don't know. Let's see. Hans, what are we saying here? I try to watch anything new. Specifically, I'm tired of reboots and soft reboots. 65 looked badass and original. Yeah, and it kind of bombed at the box office. I didn't rush out to go see 65 either, but it looked pretty cool. But I'm with you. I mean, reboots, sequels, prequels, remakes. It's like the only thing they like to do is those kind of things because they know it's the IP. If you've got intellectual property just sitting there that you own, you might as well make a reboot, sequel, prequel, because the bottom line is, even if you got 50% of what you did the first time, you're still going to make money on that. Donovan. But for me personally, the Lucasfilm division needs a major overhaul. Maybe your option is different because you are in the industry. I'm not a fan, so there's that. Yeah, no, I get that. I think they will bring more people into the mix. I think a lot of the directors on The Mandalorian, I would love to see Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard. I would love to see her direct a feature film. I think she would, because every episode she directed of The Mandalorian has been the cow's tits. Every single one of them. The first one with the creature in the woods happened to be an AT-AT or an ATST. And I thought that was great. The episode where that they dropped of the Mandalorian. Hey, what's up? The episode that they dropped into the Mandalorian or into the Book of Boba Fett, which was, I think, episode 1 of season 3 Mandalorian, where he's hacked that guy in half with the dark saber, in the beginning of the episode. That was Bryce Dallas Howard too. I give her a fucking movie. She's great. I think she would crush it as a director, and she's got a good lineage. Because again, I think Solo was a good movie. It just, the timing of the release was bad and all the production problems that they had.
Solo is a fantastic movie that what I feel really bad about Solo is, like, when I saw it, because I went and saw it at like the preview screening that they do, Thursday nights and whatever.
Yeah.
And like it gets to the end of the movie and we get the Darth Maul cameo, and like I'm the only asshole in the theater making noise.
Dude, it was great.
I was like, it was so good. Like I'm all like, because they start off with that scene, and then like Kira's talking, and you're like, all right, and then it shows the hologram, and you're like, all right, and then you see the legs, and I'm like, no.
dude, it's
No.
yeah.
And then like they cut to the robe shot and I'm all like, no. I'm audibly in the theater squealing like a kid, and then I'm like, they fucking did it. My girlfriend's like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, no, but they fuck. And then like the hood comes off and I'm like, yeah. And like no one else made noise. And I'm like, how you fucking humorless bitches.
Yeah, that was a good, I like you, I had an employee, or I had a friend that mine that let me come in on a screening before that movie dropped. And what was cool is, I was getting married that year, and it was the same week or whatever that was my bachelor party. So instead of having a bachelor party, all my groomsmen, we all went and saw Solo in a private for a private screening. So that was kind of cool. that was it. That was my thing.
When I went to my cousin's
I
wedding
enjoyed it.
in Oregon back in 2006, right? My cousin was like a player throughout high school because we're like the same age. And it got to his bachelor party, and I was like, this is going to be wild. It's got all the boys from high school, and we're all like 26 or 24 at the time. This is 06, would have been 24, and it's like, yeah, man, like I'm in town. Let's go. Like, let's do some strip clubs and shit, right? Or go out. And he's like, no, we're just going to like play it easy. And like, we're just going to go see a movie. And I'm like, what? So we went and saw Miami Vice, because that had just come out, and I was like, I loved Miami Vice, but
I mean,
they were underwhelmed by it.
Yeah,
but yeah. I liked it.
Well, Michael Mann. I mean, if you like Michael Mann and you like, that was with Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell, right?
And that was right. Yeah, 2 years after Collateral, which I think is just an amazing.
Collateral's great. I love that.
But it's like, as soon as the movie was over, they all went home, went to bed. Right, because they had the wedding in the morning, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay, because there was a strip club like in the same complex we were at. This place called Jiggles. It's no longer there. And I'd never been there, but like when I lived in Portland growing up, I always knew that Jiggles was there, but I'd never gone because I wasn't old enough. And now I'm back and I'm old enough, and I'm like, all right, let's go to Jiggles. And they're like, no, we're gonna go to bed. I'm like, well then fine. I'm like, fuck you all. I'm gonna go. And I'm going to go have a good time. And I went by myself and spent I was there for like 3 hours. I'm like, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to go back and crash out till tomorrow and shit, I mean,
hey, I mean, you did your own.
What was so funny was going to the wedding turned into like a 6-year high school reunion with all the cool kids. And then at the time I'd been growing my hair out for like a year. So like, and I had like I had like a bracer on, and I was like a little bit more, I don't know, punk rock, whatever the hell you want to say. I was like I was my first year into film school. I was in my second year, going into my second year of film school. And, I'm like kind of had that attitude and whatnot. And I go to the wedding and I'm talking to one of like the most popular girls from our class. And she's like wanting to dance with me and everything else. And she's like, when did you get to be so cool? And I was like, I've always been this cool. Like, what the hell, And then, and I'm all like, damn, she's kind of flirting up a storm. And then like her ex-boyfriend was like the best man at my cousin. Like he was like, I don't know. He swung in that night and he like kneecapped me from even like getting to talk to her again. I'm like, you suck, dude. Right. And I'm like, whatever, man. I'm going to go back to the titty bar.
Let's digress. Let me hit.
I got stories about titty bars too, but we can talk about that later.
Bars. So do I. I used to date an exotic dancer. So
me too. It was a horrible experience.
Horrible relationship. Well, we could do that.
Was yours on meth too? Because that was mine.
No.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
Mine was a pothead, but it's okay.
That's manageable.
Yeah. Solo never interested me, but Mando has more. Mando has more than not. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm the same way. This last couple episodes of Mandalorian's been
I have not seen it. I have only watched the first episode. I've been very busy. It's been very difficult to get the chance to watch it.
Well, they're short, so you can binge them.
Yeah, well, it's like every time I sit down, my 5-year-old just wakes up and she's like, I can't sleep. Can I come sleep with you? And I'm like, really? Like, even right now, my 5-year-old opens the door when I'm on the, what's up, kiddo?
Hey.
Yeah, we're going to go lay down here in a few minutes. Okay. So,
yeah. No,
sorry.
I was just going to say, no, it's fine. Cause my daughter, she gets up, but she just crawls into bed with us at like 3 a.m. or something like that. Tom T Solo, should have been a series exploring Han's Empire days. It could have been a 1-season thing. Yeah, no, I agree. That's cool.
It should still be that.
Yeah. Bring Alden Ehrenreich back and do it. Why not? I'm game. So what about the Levi and the Rock?
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, you have your, your take on everything that went down with DC and The Rock, and I think you're absolutely right, 100% on your take. I just, worked with, Dwayne on a film, and I can't hate on the guy ever. He's just super, super nice. And whether his ego got the best of him with all this DC stuff, and he was, maneuvering for the people that he knew to take over and all, I'm like, I get all of that, but at the same time, it's like, he's so nice. And I think Zachary Levi is a little bit of a fucking nut job. Ooh,
Well, I mean, he's got some
on
interesting
speakerphone.
takes, I mean, Jordan Peterson, the Canadian Kermit the Frog is maybe not the
Yeah.
best person to be like, hey guys, I kind of like what he has to say. But I understand. Well, again, not to go into the whole, Jordan Peterson thing, I understand the appeal. I think he's an idiot, but I understand the appeal because he speaks to a very specific demographic of young men who are largely leaderless. And there has a lot to do with the changing tides of society and how the younger male demographic, in my personal opinion, have been somewhat left behind in academia.
No, I get that. And like Jordan Peterson, not to go off on a tangent, but like he's hit or miss for me. Sometimes I'll watch something that comes across, my YouTube feed, and I'll go, all right, I'll watch this. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And then sometimes I'll watch something and I go, oh, dude, come on. You can't say that. You're an idiot. And so it's this back and forth with him.
The quote, my favorite quote is the "up yours, woke moralists." I think that is great. In my mind, I think it's hysterical. But yeah, I mean, Zachary Levi, though, it's like, look, one of my buddies went to high school with Zachary Levi because he's from Ventura, California. And he was, so, when Chuck was on the air, that's when I found out my buddy had known him. And we're talking about him in high school. And he's like, yeah, he always wanted to be the funny guy. He always wanted to be the center of attention, things like that. He was kind of a jerk. And then
he
one
comes
night
across that way. As a
he
very
comes off,
cocky jerk.
And one night I went out back in 2014. I went out for drinks with Adam Baldwin because he was in San Diego, and this was like during the Gamergate stuff. And he just DMs me one day, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in San Diego on this night. You want to get drunk?" I'm like, "Yep."
Okay.
So I hung out with Adam Baldwin at a bar in downtown San Diego and got drunk.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. And but even then, it's like talked a little bit about Chuck and whatever, and he had good things to say. But I think the thing with Levy is like, the thing is, though, because he's already been, at least in regards to, let's say, the Snyder fandom, the biggest problem there is that they've already labeled him. Let's use even some interesting terms here. Suppressive person. All right. Let's address the Snyder cult for being what they are. Scientology about Zack Snyder. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And anyone who disagrees with them is considered an other. And Zachary Levi he tried being funny. There was that clip of him, like someone asked about the Snyder cut, and he's like, it doesn't exist. Right. And they were like, oh, he just hates the Snyder cut. And it's like, no, I mean, at the time it didn't exist. I mean, like the cut, like the cut was shot, but the movie itself didn't exist in a format that was watchable.
Effects weren't
but trying to, again, like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but people just whatever. And so he was kind of like that. And then, you had the headless cameo in Shazam and all that stuff. And, now then, of course, the fallout over the Snyder cut and everything changing up. And then there's images of Zachary Levi hanging out with Peter Safran and his wife on like over the holiday.
Right.
They're good friends.
Yeah. Which is fine because that happens all the time with people in Hollywood. They're friends with the producers that work with them.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I didn't know this until today. Zachary Levi was up for the role of Star-Lord alongside Chris Pratt.
I heard that. And then that James Gunn said that they should hire him he recommended him for Shazam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he had read for Star-Lord and he thought, no, this is great. But when he went up for Shazam, apparently James Gunn made a call and said,
really? I didn't know that.
This guy's good.
Yeah, because he's good as Shazam. He really is. He plays the role well, I think.
I didn't watch the first movie. It looked like crap to me. And here's the deal. To me, it was, it's the movie Big with a superhero, and I'm just not interested in it. It just wasn't. I didn't read Shazam comic books. It just wasn't my thing. And I never watched Chuck.
Okay, I get that.
So to me, like Zachary Levi is a nobody. It's like, even though people watch Chuck and followed him, and then he's Shazam.
You know him from like Thor, Dark World and Thor Ragnarok.
yeah, I'm just like,
Like that's about it.
this is it. It's like,
Yeah.
who's this guy? I don't care. And so for me, he just came across as just the whole thing is goofy, where he's trying to be a child, like, or a teenager in a
It's big.
superhero.
It's big.
It's big, but it didn't, to me, it didn't work.
Well, but you didn't see the movie.
No, but then I heard that even like
He's great. He's great.
They wasted the villain in the first one because you had what's his name, Strong.
Mark Strong, but Mark Strong to kind of like he comes back and there's they set him up for number 3 in this one. So
If
it's
they
like
make it number 3.
if
No, I
they
don't
make
think
it,
so.
no, they're not going to make it number 3. But I hope they don't actually get rid of Levy.
No, I think he's got a place on Peacemaker, because that's exactly where that comedy needs to play.
Have you seen? Well, okay, so I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but like the mid credits,
I saw the credits. I mean, it was on Twitter.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. So did you watch? But did you only?
Wife.
Did you watch the 30 seconds of it, or did you watch the full like 2.5 minutes?
I guess it was the full 2.5 minutes.
Dude, I laughed my ass off at that.
And see, I was like, whatever, because I don't like Zachary Levi. So I'm just like, it didn't, and I get that those were Peacemaker characters. I get it. And his wife. And it's like, that's fine. And to me, I think if any, like when James Gunn said he didn't have anything to do with it, fuck that. That's horseshit, because it's his show. It's like he had to have had something to do with that to try to tie it into his universe.
If he wasn't talking about that, he was talking about, well, he might've been talking about the Amelia Harcourt being hired, because that might have been because the thing that David F. Sandberg had said is that they were going to have Aldous Hodge's Hawkman, and maybe Noah Centineo or Cyclone. I'm not too sure, but like they were going to have a Justice Society characters recruit Shazam for Waller. That was the original post-credit scene.
Okay.
And then that was going to happen. And then 2 days before, or 2 or 3 days before that scene was set to be shot, those cameos fell through. Now we're hearing that it was Dwayne who vetoed that from happening.
You know why?
Because it's pointless,
it was corny. Like
they had fucking, they had Adam Smasher, man. Like I like Noah Centineo and Black Adam, but like
sure. But if I was Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and again, he was at that point, he was bringing back Henry Cavill. He was doing all this stuff, and he didn't want to go in the jokey joke direction. And I'll be honest with you, fighting Shazam, if they even wanted to go there, would have been stupid. At least that's my perspective, because the only person you'd want to fight Black Adam would be Superman. You like Shazam is like, and to me, I think it's the suit. It's the suit Zachary wears.
I think the suit was better in part 2 than it was in part 1. I agree with you.
Fake.
I know it's padded. I know it's padded.
He does this with his arm and this big clump of materials.
I know.
Right
I know. But I can see personally, I can look past that kind of crap. I don't have a problem with it.
No, I can't, because I work in film, and I'm like, dude, you should have had wardrobe fix that.
Well, yes, obviously from that, it's kind of like the last time I watched 1989 Batman was when I was in film school. And when you're, so did I. But I mean, like I watched it on DVD back in the day. And the thing is, it's the same thing. It's like when you work or when you're learning about movies or when you're in that whole world, you really probably shouldn't watch as many movies, because you're just going to notice the flaws.
Sure.
And it's like, that's where it's like, I was like watching 89 Batman, and I grew up loving that movie, and I'm watching it going like, this is like a bad student film. It's so many questionable choices.
Do you know what movie I feel about as I watch stuff now? The original 77 Star Wars feels like a student film. I mean, some of the shots, I mean, I can't imagine what it looked like before Lucas's wife, cut that thing to pieces, but it does. Some of the shots just feel so static, like a kid in the 70s shot it, and not like a real filmmaker shot it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, because when you look at the difference between Irvin Kershner's Empire Strikes Back, it's light years. And I'm not talking about visual. I'm talking storytelling, shot choices. I'm not talking the visual effects at all. Like Empire is just in a different league all its own after Lucas did, the original.
I mean, here's the thing. You're not wrong about any of that, right? It's like, you can go back and look at some filmmakers' earlier work. I mean, look at like Ron Howard having done, like Willow back in '88. And then look at like his stuff, Apollo 13, and how great that was. And, but then again, you kind of have like your heyday, and then you get into stuff like Hillbilly Elegy, or LG, whatever the hell that was.
That was a terrible movie.
And then even like 13, whatever, the whole thing about the kids in the cave. I haven't seen it for Amazon, but like the trailer looked good.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
You know, but like Ron Howard, even Solo was, you know, 70% him, 30% Phil Lord, Chris Miller. But he was brought in as a director for hire and did his job well. But he also had a good, I think, steady hand, and that would be Kennedy at the time, trying to make sure this thing got right. Yeah, but again, like these, I mean, look at Spielberg. There are people out there that are like, Spielberg has lost it, you know. But they, again, like they kind of have these different, you know, you can argue.
Well, I think
I want to use here.
For me, sometimes Spielberg's hit or miss, and like I love the Fabelmans, but then, you know, he may not do one that's, it's so weird because I love Munich. I think Munich is
the shit.
It is one of Spielberg's best films that is completely overlooked.
The best thing that Daniel Craig has ever said is in Munich, right? When he's got that thick, yeah, he's blonde. He's got that thick Australian accent, and they're talking about, I forget the setup, but he just goes like, the only blood that matters is Jewish blood. Right. And he says it, and like I saw it with my buddy, and we're just we're like, that line is great, you know, and we're just laughing our ass off at it. No, but like the movie was excellent. It was like, because it's like, again, he went, you know, he did a studio film. He did War of the Worlds, and he wrapped that movie up. Right. And then that went into post, and he immediately went overseas and he shot Munich. That was his passion project. And so you watch those in 2005, you know, summer versus winter. And, you know, and I mean, I like,
and that's what we were talking about Matthew Vaughn earlier. It's almost the same thing, because he had done two.
Yeah. Back to back, basically.
And one was weaker than the other. I don't know.
Well, I mean, no, I think Kick-Ass was released, but it had been shot a while before. He just went and he just did a quick turnaround on First Class. But then again, if you look, then Bryan Singer comes in for Days of Future Past and just tells an insanely good story. You know,
I love Days of Future Past.
I don't know what the fuck happened with Apocalypse. How do you have night and day the quality? I don't even get it, but it's like, you know, it is just 100%. It's crazy. It's just, I need to go back and rewatch it again. It also came out 4 months after, or 3 months after Deadpool, which is like a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. So I think Deadpool set this insanely high bar for that year, and it just wasn't able to like match it. But then of course the next year you get Logan, which again is another masterpiece. And it's like my
favorite MCU, or not MCU, but it's my favorite X-Men movie, if you will.
No, I completely understand. I think Logan is just like, I saw that movie a few times in theaters. I saw it in IMAX, like, because this is so funny. IMAX at the time, I don't have my cameras all kind of wonky right now, but IMAX back in 2017 was doing this like weird rebranding thing, or they were trying to reach out to influencers and get them to talk about IMAX. And so because I had like a decent Twitter following and I talked about movies, they were like, oh, hey, how would you feel about getting free passes to go see Logan in IMAX? And I'm like, what do you need me to do? And they're like, just tweet about it. And I'm like, okay. Right. And so they also sent me prop claws of Logan's prop claws.
Yeah.
And so I've got those on my wall right now next to my YouTube play button, my silver play button.
Dude,
and so awesome. It's like, I've had that up there for years now, for like, you know, for coming up on 6 years, I've had it, and I just love those claws. But like, I immediately went out when I saw, you know, like a Logan again in IMAX and stuff. And it's just such a compelling movie, which is why I'm excited for Indiana Jones. Like, I think Mangold is going to bring us something really good for that, because I think Mangold, here's something that I think people overlook when it comes to James Mangold. Like, they're going to look at Dial of Destiny in the same lens as Logan. And I don't think that's, I mean, for kind of wrapping up a storyline, I can see why they'd want to do that. But I think what they should really do is go back to 2010's Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz and approach it from that perspective.
I like that movie.
That movie was great.
That movie was so underrated. The whole airplane sequence.
Oh yeah.
Her drinking, not knowing what's going on in the plane while he's taking people out as he goes from the front to the beginning. And he's trying to explain with her, hey, look, you know,
it's just like, it's such a Tom Cruise movie that, you know, cause that came out in 2010. I mean, this is like 3 years after Mission Impossible 3, which at the time, you know, they weren't really doing anything with, 2 years before Ghost Protocol and stuff. And it's like, I think that was kind of his attempt at like maybe launching another franchise just in case they weren't able to get another Mission Impossible off the ground. And the same thing even goes for like Edge of Tomorrow, which is a fantastic. Okay, I probably have to go here in a minute
Yeah, you
because
gotta
I hear
it's the bed.
the 3-year-old is crying. So,
Do your thing, man.
but yeah, so well, I got to lay them down, and I got ready for my stream in about an hour and stuff. So I'll dip out, but we gotta have these conversations again, man. I always enjoy talking to you,
Absolutely.
even when we don't always agree on everything, because I think you being in the industry and working, like, you have a very solid understanding of a lot of stuff, and I like your stories because I get jealous.
Oh no.
Because,
Dude,
like,
one of these days I'll just have you come out and get on set.
I would. I was actually just talking. I was talking to my girlfriend when I went out there before, and I was like, "Oh, I'm talking with my friend. He's in the film industry, lives in North Carolina, and I'm like,
But we get once these COVID protocols, because that's the thing now, that it's like you can't bring guests like you used to, to just hang out on set, hang out in Video Village and watch shooting going. It's not like that anymore, man. They just don't let you do it. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully if we can get past that, then But then if my TV series takes off, which is what I'm hoping happens, then I could have you come anytime.
Yeah, no, I would love to do that. I mean, I want to get back into writing. I have tons of ideas, like, for like little low budget point of view. Like, I'm a big point of view found footage guy. So, like, that's the only kind of movie I want to make. I know that sounds really weird.
No, I saw bits and pieces of the one that you did.
The In Search Of?
Yeah, that you got pinned on your Twitter. But listen, go put the kid.
Yeah. I was oh, here, I'll show you something really, really quick. It's only like 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And then I can bring this video up because this is the trailer. So the movie theater I worked at in Pasadena, we shot a movie there in 5 days back in the first week of 2011. And it's never going to come out. Because we just, fall out with the producers, everything else, right? But they shot a teaser. They put together a teaser trailer for the movie, like within a week after we were done filming. And it took me a while to find it again. I'm trying to get it propped up right now.
Is it something we share the screen?
Yeah, I can do the video file. It's just being a jerk. It's saying that it can't do it. I don't know. It might be because you don't have
the full suite.
You don't have the full thing. But what I can do though actually is I can do something a little bit different because I do have the premium StreamYard.
It looks like it's coming in.
Oh, there we go.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby together.
I hate scary movies.
Back!
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I produced it.
Shriek Fest tonight or what?
So I produced it. I wrote the story for it, and I worked on the script and stuff. We shot it at the theater. After we closed, there was I think they spent like $2,000 on the budget because we shot this thing like super quick. But like we did the whole, we had a bunch of cast that came out, worked all night, worked for free, and everything, and the theater, the way the theater is designed is perfect for that because it almost comes across maze-like at times, given the architecture of the theater. And so it was great for the horror film. I need to reconnect with those guys. It's been over 10 years now since I've talked to them. And then
because you could actually take it as a found, like the whole thing as a found.
Yeah,
and you could actually add it to something new up to date.
We probably. The theater still stands. I was actually just looking at it last night on Google Maps, to see, how it looks in the area and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I like the concept of it. It's a fun little thing. I would love to have it see the light of day because we actually had people who knew what the hell they were doing and not just my friends and I pointing the camera at stuff. And yeah, like those are the kind of movies I really want to make. That's all I care about. Like it's, have you seen Clerks 3? Have you watched that yet?
I haven't watched Clerks 3 yet. No.
There is when you watch it, get to the end of the movie and during the end credits, and I'm sure you do watch the end credits.
Absolutely.
But Kevin Smith actually talks over the end credits.
Oh wow. Okay.
And he gives a bit more information about stuff that didn't make it into the movie, but you get more backstory on one thing. I won't say what it is, but like that resonated with me because it's like, to me, it's like, I'm 40. I turned 41 in like 5 days. And I'm just like, it doesn't mean it's too late. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean it's too late. And the end of that movie spoke to me quite a bit. Like, I cried at the end of Clerks 3. It's so good.
Okay.
But it's, things along those lines. Yeah. I just want to like, I just like telling stories that are like really weird and like have like weird, like, documentary style stuff about it. And that's what I'd love to do is just get back into that stuff. So, but yeah, man, hey, listen, we'll definitely continue this again. You are welcome on Huad anytime you want. I know there's a 3-hour time difference. I don't know if you're going to be up around those times, but not everything is drama. A little bit tonight because some more stuff has come up in the interim, but mostly it's just like we're just going to poke fun at The Rock. And
I'll tune in for a little bit, man. If it gets too drama, I'm like, God, just.
That's if I bring Saggy on. If I bring Saggy,
I know it brings clicks. I get it. I totally get it.
You gotta listen last night. I forget where it's at because I don't do timestamps and I should, but we're talking about like 50 Shades of Grey, and I start like deadpan narrating like a sex scene from that book.
Oh my God.
That I just make up, and Saggy just loses her mind. It just drives her up the wall.
She's so funny.
It's the funniest damn thing. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Hollywood After Dark. We do the crazy stuff, but drama sucks. You know what? It's just like, it's sometimes you have to deal with it, but for the most part, I would just love to like hang out like this and just talk about movies and like the old experiences and just kind of have a more kind of laid back thing. So, all right. Yeah, I got to go. I got to do the kid thing, but all right. I'll see you later. Everyone give Sean all your money and I'll see you.
Oh my God. No, but make sure you, hit the like button on the video so that the YouTube algorithm can pick it up. I'm going to go through and check out some of the stuff everyone's saying here, because I know everybody wanted more input on the, Levi Rock thing. What are we saying here? Let's see. Tyrone, I think the problem is that because of the post-Snyder DC movies were largely self-contained and controlled by producers, filmmakers, or actors, so The Rock can just shut down any connection to Shazam. Probably correct on that. But the thing is, like, Shazam, no matter how much anybody wants to connect it to James Gunn's universe, it really is part of the old regime, part of the Snyderverse. So I just feel like all of it should die. And let's just, I'm telling you, take Aquaman, take the Flash, take Blue Beetle, throw that shit on HBO Max, and let's just wait for James Gunn's Superman to launch the whole thing all over again. That's just kind of how I feel. Let's see. We'll go through this a little bit more. Yes. Donovan, Deadpool is the GOAT. What is this? A hot take. I never really got into Indiana Jones. That's okay. I mean, you're a little bit younger than everyone else, I think. I saw the other ones, growing up. I mean, I'm going to be 48 in April. So for me, I grew up with those movies, but some people didn't. Let's see. I agree with Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, Kathleen Kennedy's got to go. It's another. Look, I like Kathleen Kennedy. Sorry, I'm just I'm a fan of all the movies she's helped put her finger on throughout her career. The Goonies, Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, Schindler's List, Munich. I mean, Lincoln. Some of the biggest movies of all time. And her husband's great too. I can't hate on that. I think James Gunn is overrated. All he's done was Guardians of the Galaxy. No, look, he comes from the Trauma background and, the Trauma school of filmmaking. And he cut his teeth on some really low budget stuff. And look, so did James Cameron. He was in the Roger Corman films. But Piranha Part 2, he was fired from. He was the director on that. Fired. James Cameron got fired. And the next thing he does is Terminator. So look, you've got to come from that kind of guerrilla background. And I think it makes you appreciate when you do have all the bells and whistles to play with on set and you've got $100 million, and you still penny pinch. And you don't just do everything expensive when you come from that kind of a background. So I still go back and watch the Logan trailers. Yeah, especially, is it the one with the Johnny Cash song playing in it. I think it had the Johnny Cash one. Great stuff, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the director James Mangold for Logan, but also Ford versus Ferrari, Copland, Night versus Day. I mean, everything James Mangold arguably has directed is fan fucking tastic. And so for me, I can't wait. I was so happy that Spielberg bowed out and just executive produced this latest Indiana Jones film because it needed a fresh take after the last one. And so I can't wait for this movie. I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. So I think this is going to be good. And honestly, I hope Indiana Jones dies at the end. I'm sorry. Look, Han Solo's dead. My hero's dead. Indiana Jones, if he dies, it puts it to rest. It could be like Daniel Craig in No Time to Die, and you just put that franchise to bed. And sure, you can bring it back later with someone new, but just encapsulate everything that Harrison Ford has done and kill the character. I think even John Wayne, one of his best movies was when he died in it, and he's only died on screen, I think, once. John Wayne. Rooster Cogburn, I think, was the movie. I could be wrong, or it was the sequel to that. But the bottom line is, like, sometimes you just have to let characters die. Even if you're gonna do anything going forward with Indiana Jones, do animated stuff. There's a really good artist out there that did kind of really cool animation of Indiana Jones, and I was hoping somebody would buy that and turn that into a movie. Dragon Hill. Is that how you say that? Oh, Dragon Isle. I'm thinking about watching Indiana Jones 5 in the theaters, mainly because Machine Games, the gaming studio who made the best Wolfenstein games, is in recent years making an Indiana Jones game. Oh yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for that Indiana Jones game. That's cool. I'm very much interested in seeing how that goes. The video game as well, because I'm sure the CGI is going to be fantastic. As much as I adore Kathleen Kennedy, she turned 70 the month Indiana Jones 5 hit cinemas. Since Raiders was her first film credit as a producer, it's full circle for her. Good time for her to retire, maybe. No, I think she is going to bow out and even retire from Lucasfilm. And it makes total sense. Like I said, she's 70. Does she really want to keep making movies into her 80s? I mean, just let it go. She's made her mark. She's going to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame if she hasn't already. She's going to go down in history, not as the best female producer Hollywood's ever seen, as one of the best producers Hollywood has ever seen. The fact that she's a woman is just consequential. She is amazing. And if you look at all her movies, it's all the Back to the Future films. I mean, just Kathleen Kennedy, Gremlins. You put everyone that still has physical media or bought DVDs growing up has just about 90% of all the movies she put her fingerprint on in some capacity. And I think in Raiders of the Lost Ark, she was just an assistant to Steven Spielberg. And it wasn't until after that. But her husband, Frank Marshall, was a producer on Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, there's a lot of nepotism in the film industry, and that's fine. I see it all the time where parents, fathers hire their sons and daughters for crew positions, and it's a very generational thing where people who have been in the business a while, their kids grow up and then they get them into the business and all that. And so husband and wife teams are not unheard of. You look at James Cameron and Gail Ann Hurd, who were married when Cameron did Terminator. So, I think it's a good time for her to step away. Why not? And go out on top as one of the best produced. I mean, the last 5 movies she produced, I think it was something like 60 of her films, or not 60 of her films, 11 of her films are in the top 50 films, highest grossing of all time. $11 billion she's made in Hollywood for just those that less than a dozen films. Let's see. I agree with you. Steven Spielberg calls Kathleen Kennedy the greatest producer in Hollywood. Those claims she's not are basically saying that she's knows more than Spielberg. No, I mean, well, first, when when Kathleen Kennedy, she graduated film school, she knew how to edit, she knew how to do all these things. And then, she went into producing news. She was a producer behind the scenes for news before she jumped on working on the movie 1941, which was a Steven Spielberg directed film. John Milius was the writer on that, and she was John Milius's assistant. And Spielberg saw how good she was with John Milius and then sucked her up for his next film. But yeah, absolutely. Look, someone has to dot the I's and cross the T's. And when you're handling movies that are hundreds of millions of dollars and franchises and things like that, when you're Spielberg, you trust that things are happening and that are gonna you're gonna show up. One of my friends, John West, he was a UPM or production supervisor on Lincoln, and I asked him, I said, did you ever see Spielberg? And he said no. He'd fly in on a helicopter, land, he'd walk in, everything would already be lit. He'd say action, they'd shoot the stuff. And next thing you know, after 12 hours, he'd be back on his helicopter leaving. And he says he barely saw him throughout the whole movie. And he was a UPM production supervisor. So I'm trying to remember what exact position he had, but I know it was one of the two. And so, when you hear that those kind of things, it's such a well-oiled machine, these movies, that Spielberg can just come in and knows that, like, Kathleen Kennedy's got everything squared away is just phenomenal. So that all he has to do is think about the shots and be creative. That's who you want having your back. Let's see. She also helped M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong. I always say that when I say his name. Make The Sixth Sense when Disney under Michael Eisner wanted to scrap the film completely. I knew she was a producer on The Sixth Sense, but I did not know about Michael Eisner wanting to scrap the film. I worked with Michael Eisner's son, Breck Eisner, on a movie called The Crazies, and he was super nice. He was the director. It was a remake of a movie that came out in the 70s, a George Romero film called The Crazies, and it starred Timothy Oliphant. He was great in that movie too. I had I remember doing 3 weeks straight of night shooting. Fuck, dude, that just 3 weeks straight of night shooting. Ugh. And then we were even shooting night for day. Yeah, we would shoot at night, and they would put black boxes on the windows and have an 18K blowing light through a window so that they could shoot daytime stuff. So they could shoot nighttime stuff while that was being set up in other areas of this house that we were in. And then they would shoot early morning stuff in another section of the house. Oh my God, that movie was, I remember getting no sleep on that film. Anyway, I digress. Good stuff, man. All right, we're an hour and 41 minutes. I'm going to bounce off this, and I'm going to check out I'm going to roll on over to Jarbo's stream and check out his show. And but thanks for tuning in. As far as everything that's going on with Star Wars, I'll just recap. Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt-Gibson have bounced from their Star Wars project, and I have to applaud Damon for literally saying, in layman's terms, I couldn't crack the nut, and I don't want to screw this up, and I love Star Wars, and I would rather watch the next Star Wars movie than make it. And so you got to applaud somebody who, didn't dig his head in the sand and try to force something out that wasn't going to happen. And but anyway, Jim, hold on, let's see. What are you saying, Jim? You're great, Sean. Love the channel. One of my favorites to follow. Right? Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, buddy. So yeah. Anyway, guys, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video for the YouTube algorithm, and we're gonna get out of here. We'll see you on the next one, guys. End the broadcast. Click that thing. It's not ended yet. It's gonna end soon.